Hey, what's up, family? Yo, today we got an oldie but goodie for you. And it's going to be dealing with an old book review called The Pimp's Rap by the Master Pimp. Now, this is, like I said, it's an old book, but I love it. Now, I know I keep getting a lot of requests out there. People keep asking me to do a book review on Iceberg Slim. I wasn't particularly a great reader of Iceberg Slim, although I did read one of his books and it was good. It was really good. I guess I never really got so much into Iceberg Slim because I was so asphyxiated on Donald Goins, which they're relatively about the same type of stuff. But that's why I did all of Donald Goins' books. If you're interested, just check out the category of the educational category, and I got all his books. Me and my family did all of them. But like I said, Iceberg Slim was good, so at least I could come close to it, because I don't have none of his books. I read one of his books a long time ago. But I did go through my archives, and I found this old pimp book called The Pimp's Rap by Master Pimp. So let's get into it about this book here, because trust me when I tell you, you're gonna love this. All right, let's get right down to the nitty-gritty about this book, the way it starts out. The way it starts out was named Johnny Bedford, right? Johnny was just a young cat. Met him a nice woman by the name of Anita Johnson, and they cared and loved each other. Was thinking about building a career, because you got to remember, to a lot of degree, you got to say to yourself, what makes a man become a pimp? Remember, you can't just say, man, you got some women out there that's pimps, and they call them madams or something like that. But then let me get to the point. What makes a person become a pimp? A number of things. Poverty. Tired of being behind the 8 ball, figuratively speaking. Want to be better in life. Look at all the flashy, glittery stuff and say, I want to be a part of that. I want to dominate that. I want to rule, right? So there are some things that trigger a person, like they say even in prison. What don't make you, some things in life could either make you or break you. And some things, it don't break a person, it make a person even more vengeful and better, or whatever degree you want to go with. And in this case, that's what happened to this young man. He had a young woman that him and her was very much into each other, so he thought. They was thinking about building a life together, Johnny and his girl, Anita Johnson. And they even got an apartment together, and they was both working jobs, and all he was talking about how much he loved her and how much time they're going to grow together and they're going to be wonderful together. But oh and behold, one day, as Johnny making this big dinner for his lady, she ain't called him in hours, she ain't came by, and he's wondering what the heck is going on. And before you know it, a day or two go by. And all this time he was home and made dinner for her and wanted to tell her how much he loved her. Because that's how much he truly loved her, thought the world of this woman, worshiped the ground she walked on. About days later, he received a letter in the mail from Anita telling him how much she loved him. However, she didn't want to hurt him, so that's why she wrote this letter. And the letter, to give you a short version, essentially it told him that she was having an affair behind his back with the boss from her job, and that she's even pregnant by the boss. But she loved Johnny so much, and she thought the best thing is to let him go and let him lead a happy life. He was broken up about this. And you know how most people do. Don't eat for days, don't sleep, boo-hooing themselves. But what he did, he went and got the $3,000 that he had out the bank, and he skipped town. And he went to a whole nother town somewhere far. I think it was California, if I'm not mistaken. Started a whole new life. But when he got to this new place, he went right to this place called the Players Lounge. And when he got to the Players Lounge, he seen everything and how fast life was moving, the prostitutes on the street, the pimps making money, and right there and then. Remember when I told you, what don't make you could possibly break you, or backwards. Whatever breaks some people can actually make others. See, what Anita did to him, it broke him. But now, when he got his money, he left town, said goodbye to his grandma and that he'd visit her later. He went to another town. He said, I'm gonna be a pimp. I'm not just gonna be a pimp, but I'm gonna be the baddest pimp this scene has ever seen. So when he got to the Players Lounge, he asked the bartender, who they called the rapper, because the rapper was always rapping about something. laying down some mean lines on the scene with them about what was going on in life. But he put it in a rap all the time. I go through it. I may say a rhyme or two for you in here. But anyway, so he asked the rapper, who's the biggest, baddest pimp in here? I want to meet that person. Sure enough, he introduced him to this guy named Hollywood. Hollywood was an old player. So when he met Hollywood, he told Hollywood that he wanted to be a pimp. And Hollywood told him, I'll take you up under my wing. But listen here, young chump. If you really want to be a pimp, you ought to do everything I tell you with no questions asked. And sure enough, Hollywood ran him down and everything. Even things that didn't at times seem to make sense. Hollywood knew it would make sense. Just this young boy, you don't understand how the game goes. So I'm going to explain it to you. For example, he told him, have you ever worked a job before you got here? He said, I'm gonna need you to go down to the unemployment office and start collecting that money that the government owe you. That way you got a residual amount of money coming in. In the meantime, I hooked you up with one of these women out here. So he hooked him up with his first whore. Now I wanna put a disclaimer in this video here. I will be saying some derogatory words sometimes because I want you to get just the gist of how serious this book really was. So anyway, Hollywood hooked him up with one of his first whores, and he told him, she the type of whore no other pimp want to even deal with, but we're gonna see if you could deal with her. He gave him a real test, and sure enough, this woman was bad. Boy, she was gorgeous, had the bad body that men just would crawl for her, like woo. So he was trying to understand what was so bad about her. He soon found out what was so bad about her. They had sex, they had crazy sex, did drugs, whatever the case. But every time they would go to the Players Lounge or somewhere else, her ex-husband would show up. Not only was he her ex-husband, he was a cop. And she would always tell Johnny that this guy is still giving her a hard time. But what it really was, she was playing Johnny, seeing how much she could get away with, like a lot of whores do. Go out on a stroll and come back and tell their pimp, I only got this much money. And that's what she was doing. She was testing the waters with Johnny. And then when Johnny would go back to Hollywood and tell Hollywood what's going on, Hollywood schooled him. Man, I'm telling you, man, she playing you, man. She's pushing your buttons just to see just how far she can get with you. Let me tell you something about being a pimp. If you allow it, she's gonna roll right over you. So you better toughen up. Let your pimp game kick in. You gotta know how to handle these whores. Remember, like I told you, don't ever give a bitch a fair break, but don't never cross a good woman. And that's how he explained stuff to him. So now, in the end, so what he told him after they put their game together, he said, this is what I'm gonna need you to do to fix her boat. He said, I'm gonna need you to speak to my lawyer friend. He's gonna write up a fictitious letter saying that you're about to get $100,000 off of a lawsuit. I want you to show that letter to this whore. He said, when you do that, she gonna be wheels over, her head gonna spin. And then you get her to buy you a brand new caddy. You get her to buy you this and buy you that. Before you know it, she gonna give you everything she got. And just when she do that, you break off from that bitch. Now, when I was reading this, I said, yo, that's foul. But you gotta have ice cold blood in your veins to be a pimp. And that's what he was teaching them. You can't ever give a bitch a fair break. He always reminded him that. But don't never cross a good woman. So in the end, he did just what Hollywood told him to do. And sure enough, he was driving around in the fanciest Cadillac. Everybody was bowing down to Johnny Bedford. And then, next thing you know, Hollywood told him, but let me tell you something. I'm gonna send her a letter and get ready for the fireworks. And sure enough, the fireworks meant she gonna come after you when she realized you played her. And sure, boy, oh boy, did she. She came at him, banging on his door a week and a half later because he dismissed her. She was like, you son of a bitch, and pulled the gun out on him, a knife or whatever the case. But in the meantime, he had already called the cops. And I think she shot bullets through the door and all this. But make a long story short, because we could drag this out, but we not. They wound up locking her up. And he went back to Hollywood and told him everything that happened. He said, I told you. Didn't I tell you this was going to happen? See, one of the greatest things about learning in life is learning how to listen for understanding to help you grow, opposed to how a lot of women do, love to listen just for an argument. See, he was learning to be not just a pimp, but the baddest pimp, as they call it, the pimp master. Before you know it, he had a whole stable of whores, aka prostitute, because he had another hookup that Hollywood hooked him up with, was with his bail bondsman. And that's how he got a lot of his whores, because the bail bondsmen will always give him the rundown on these women and their criminal records. So he knew they was good to be whores, so he could pimp them, because they had records. He had to worry about nothing coming back on them. Next thing you know, one of his main whores who did all his money and kept everything in order, she brought him this new whore that he never seen before. And that's where he made a mistake, because he didn't do the background check on her, and he didn't get it from the bail bondsman, which that was a reliable source. It later came back to bite him in the ass when one day he went to go see his grandma, back home to see his grandma, and that was all lovely. But when as soon as he got off the plane, they arrested him right at the airport for pimping and prostitution charges. Turns out that young girl that his other girl brought in was an undercover cop. Now, as always, you know I love to give y'all a word of the day, so that's going to be the word of the day: pandering. That was one of the charges he was locked up for, pimping and pandering. Now, if I ask the average person out there, what is the definition of pimping? Matter of fact, I ask you, eh? As if you, the average person now, what is the definition of pimping?
Well, as far as my understanding, I believe it means pimp to take females to make money off from getting paid.
That's good. That's very good. That's just what a pimp is. A pimp is someone, if you look the actual definition up, it says someone who benefits or takes the money from prostitutes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to follow up on that, and I say to you, what is the definition of pandering?
Pandering something illegal? You're making something illegal,
as my elementary teacher used to tell me, you're on the right track. You ain't quite there, but you're on the right track. So, illegal. Pandering, if you look up the word pandering, it goes right into pimping. Pimping is pandering, pandering is pimping. But if you look up the definition for pandering, it means to coerce or to force someone into prostitution. So remember, he got charges of pimping and pandering. When you say, see, they just trumping up charges. They both mean the same thing, pimping and pandering. Pandering, to force someone into prostitution. Pimping, to take the money from a prostitution, to make him prostitute. Come on now. But anyway, I think he did like 5 years in a prison joint. While he was in prison, he met some brother that was real religious that got his head on straight, that told him, after all the years that he did, you know, when on his day about to get out, the guy gave him some good words. He told him, stay your butt in the cell, because they trying to knock you off here. They know you about to get out in 2 days. See how people do? Like that old saying, every time I'm trying to get out, it's just somebody dragging me back down. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, when the dude got out 5 years later, just like a lot of brothers when they get out of prison, the world was moving while you was standing still, aka in jail, in prison. The world kept moving. The world didn't stop because you was gone. It's just you got to remind yourself of that. And see, a lot of cats don't do that. You know, they get out of jail and they think it's the past. No, the past is gone. It's the present. You know, so it reminds me of that movie, I'm Gonna Get You Sucker. Remember how the pimp, he got out of jail and he still had the fish in the shoes and he thought he was living in the past. And they was laughing at him. And that's what happened to Johnny Bedford. When he came home, he went straight to the Players Lounge. But before he got to the Players Lounge, he had heard that there was a new pimp on the scene, bigger than anything anyone had ever seen. And this pimp name was Crack. I could tell you this from first, most pimps hated when crack hit the scene. It messed up a lot of their whores. It messed up a lot of their bitches. Therefore, it messed up a lot of their money. To see some of their best women get turned out by that pimp called Crack. And that's what, like I said, that's what happened to Johnny Bedford. When he got out, he still was thinking in the past. So when he went to the Players Lounge, his old stomping grounds, he seen all the crackheads on the street around the Players Lounge. He even seen a cop car in front of the Players Lounge. That was against the rules back in the days. A cop car sitting in front of the Players Lounge. When he went inside, it was a horrible scene. Before he even went inside, I love the statement that he said. After doing 5 years in a joint, I approach the Players Lounge, and I opens the Players Lounge door, looking for the pass, only to, what he said? He said, I open up the Players Lounge looking for yesterday, only to realize that it was today, and looking for tomorrow. Something like that. I just love that statement. It was incredible. Open up the door, looking for yesterday, only to realize that it was the present day, and tomorrow wasn't promised. But anyway, so now he realized all these jokers was cracked out. Yo, the prostitution scene, the bitches, the whores, is all changed. Yeah, life moved on while you was gone for 5 years. You don't even have to be a pimp or prostitute. That a lot of cats out here that's been through that. A lot of brothers I know have done time, 10, 20 years, come home from jail, and they gotta play catch up. They gotta play catch up with the computer world, with the cell phones, with everything else that's going on. And they like, wow, man, how you operate this? And that's how he felt. But anyway, eventually Johnny Benford, he met this new girl, Maria. But before he met this new girl, he got a call that his grandmother had passed away. And that messed his world up. And he took a ride back home. When he got back home, he went to the funeral and all that. He ran into an old buddy of his. When he ran into an old buddy, his old buddy was telling him about everything that's been going on. And now he's a pastor. And one day, and just after the service, he was with his wife. And while he stepped off to talk to someone else, his wife started talking to Johnny. And she said, you don't remember me, do you? Make a long story short, she said, I'm the girl that was with Anita the day that you met Anita. I wanted you to get with me, but it didn't happen. But I'm living a lovely life now. My husband's a pastor, this and that, blah, 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 blah. So next thing you know, her and his old friend told him all about Anita. How, man, when you left, man, it turns out Anita started telling everybody how her husband was treating her like crap. He made her get an abortion. He barely had sex with her. He only was using her as a trophy wife. And on the day that he died, he didn't leave her a damn penny. Turns out she kept coming back to his old grandmother's church every week, looking and hoping to run into Johnny Benford. But he done moved on with his life. In the end, they asked her, they told him, they said, you know, she's in a crazy house now. You should go check on her. And I love his response. He said, man, I don't need to check on that lame. Fuck that bitch. And he just got on the plane. Now, as he's back, that's when he met Maria, like I said. Now, Maria was a good woman. Maria worked for an NA nonprofit service to help drug addicts and stuff. And him and Maria fell in love. And for the first time, he really felt himself falling in love. And every now and then he had to tell himself, his pimp brain would kick in and be like, man, you don't fall in love with no bitch. But then sometimes he would tell himself, I gotta be careful. Maybe she ain't like the rest. So one day he told his buddy, the rapper, man, I want you to put a private investigator on her. I'm gonna tell her I'm leaving town for a while. And I want you to tell me when she sleeps, when she eats, even when she shits. I wanna know everything about her. Turns out, they found a guy going in and out while he was out of town, supposedly. They found a guy going in and out of her place. Late at night, early in the morning, spending the night. And that rocked Johnny. He said, I knew that bitch wasn't shit. So now, he got her to pay for a lot of stuff like he did the other lady. And in the end, after he got her to use her job to help him win $10,000 at this, what did they call it? It was like a players party, the players party for the best dressed pimp, you know what I'm saying? And he got her to use her job to help sell him tickets to win the $10,000, the 10 grand. And sure enough, when he got there, it was like a big fest, orgy, and all kind of other stuff going on, party. But when the actual event went on for the best dress, the oldest player got up with his best slacks on, his suede blue shoes, alligator shoes, his suede blue hat with the feather in it, his all blue decked out, double-breasted suit. Won third place, the oldest player to ever live. The second place was Bobby Jones. Bobby Jones was the one that told him, I've been winning this shit for years, man. Ain't no way you're gonna come here, you better shed your tears. You know what I'm saying? They was always doing this little rap thing back and forth with one another. But Johnny said, yeah, you've been winning all these years because I was locked down, but I'm back in town now. See what I'm saying? So now, second place winner went to Bobby Jones. And they announced a big announcement for him saying, he's won many years, but now this year he's got second place. And we know who won first place, Johnny Bedford, the master pimp. Oh, I got it backwards. The Pimp's rap, the master pimp. But just as he won the 10,000, we got to get back to Maria. As he was coming off the stage, he looked in the crowd and to his unbelief, he know he been smoking weed and drinking rum and coke the whole time, but he said, nah, that can't be. But sure enough, it was Maria. And when she approached him, the rapper was right by his side. And she just was crying the whole time. And that's when the rapper said, yo, and that's when Johnny said to the rapper, nah, in his head, he said, he couldn't backstab me, not the rapper. He from the old school. We don't do that to each other. But then the rapper told him, he said, let me explain, man. Me and you been down for a long time. It turns out that guy that was coming in and out of her house, that was her crackhead brother. And she's been working hard to help get him right, get him clean. So I guess me and you both missed this one and made a mistake. And sure enough, her brother was standing right there next to her, and she was crying and said, Johnny, I love you. I've always loved you. I would never do you wrong, Johnny. And that's when he realized, damn, I did mess up. And just like that, he took the $10,000 winnings and he put it right in Anita's hand. And he said, you take this money, you help these drug addicts get better.
Not Anita, Maria.
Oh, I'm sorry, Maria. Thank you for correcting me. But at the same time when he did that, her crackhead brother looked at him and said, man, you crazy for giving her all that money. You know, because remember, he's still a drug addict. And that's when I love the part. And I had to say this to actually read it to y'all. What he said. He said, what he said? He said he made it. That's when he said to the dude, well, before he said that, that's when the rapper said to the young joker that's on the drugs, he said, let me tell you something. Somebody told me a long time ago. No, that's when Johnny Bedford said to her brother, he said, let me tell you something an old player told me a long time ago. And he told me, don't you ever forget it. He said, as long as you live and stay in the game, if you live to be 100, it will remain the same. Don't never give a bitch an even break, but don't never cross a good woman. See, now what I love about that is then the rapper responded to that same brother and told him, you see, the trouble with you young guys is you don't know the difference between a good woman and a bitch. Ain't nothing wrong with calling a bitch, but there's something wrong with calling a good woman a bitch. And you get that through your head. Because I love it. I could say that again without even having to read it. Ain't nothing wrong with calling a bitch, but there's something very wrong with calling a good woman a bitch. So now it goes back to like what Hollywood told him. Don't never give a bitch an even break. You put your foot up their ass, but don't ever cross a good woman. Hey, we could keep going on with this. Give you some of the raps and all that. Let me see if I find you a good rap. Cause he had a lot. Rolling through the hood, smoking weed. I'm gonna give you one of the rappers' rap, just a random one. After 2 weeks of rolling through the hood, smoking weed and feeling good, creeping and peeping at Uncle Tom's cops, copping at the bus stop, watching young honeys switch and crack boys acting rich. It was time to brace myself for the bang. It was time to do that thing. I gave the rapper a ring. I called him at home. He answered the phone. Smooth, get up and stand on your feet. Take the bitter with the sweet. Lord, lay me down to sleep before I die. We got pictures of Maria with another guy. Remember that? That was good advice to follow her trail. I'll send you the pictures and put them in the mail. Don't worry, we'll know who's the boss. The next move is the motherfucking cross. See, that's what he did before he found out he messed up. He had sent him to check out on Maria. I just picked any random one because the rapper throughout the whole book, he was always rapping, laying down the rules and laying down life, always through a rap. That's why the rapper was well respected. But yeah, I love that. Speaking about this book, The Pimp's Rap, makes me think about, as I said in the beginning of the video, what makes a person becomes a pimp? Remember, some women are pimps. They avoid poverty. They want a luscious lifestyle, or whatever the case. But there are many stories. I'm going to give you two that a lot of y'all could be familiar with. One, I remember this one story. It was all over the internet. I know a lot of y'all may have heard it. I love this story. This will hit home. The guy said, he remembered a guy told him a story when he was a little kid. He said, man, I was just a little boy with all my brothers and sisters. There was 5 of us. He said, we lived in the projects with roaches and rats and mice. He said, man, one day, my mom's met this man. This was a good man. This man used to come by our house. It didn't matter how bad it was. Man, he used to bring us gifts, bring us food, put food in the house and everything. Eventually, he moved us out of the projects into a nice neighborhood, into his nice house. And he used to take care of all 5 of us like we was his own kids. He even put my mother's name on the deed of the house. Eventually, he put my mom's name on all his bank accounts. The man worked hard and treated us lovely. We weren't in poverty no more, all because of this great man. But he said, you know what, one day while that man was on the road working, my mother forced us all to get our clothes together and pack all of our stuff. We was confused. He said, Mom, what's going on? She said, don't worry about it, just pack all your stuff, we leaving. She said, but what are you talking about? Mr. Such and Such, he's good to us. And the mother said, I don't give a damn about it, pack your stuff, we leaving. And she took them all to the bank and emptied that man's bank account out. He said, see, now that little boy right there could have been someone like Johnny Benford and many other pimps. Because he said, it's a good chance that little boy growing up in life has a high probability, based on the time, may become a pimp. But one thing he's gonna always remember, what Hollywood said, don't ever give a bitch an even break. And it's sad to see that bitch in this case was his very own mother. So how do you think that little boy gonna grow up? He gonna be vicious to women in most cases. Remember, what may break others may make others. What don't break you may make you. That little boy realized, damn, Mom, that's wrong what you doing to him. This is a good man. You doing him dirty like that? He took us out the gutter. Like, damn, this your own mom. It's hard to hate Mom, but let's be honest. We don't never want to talk about the dirt that Mom did. We never want to talk about all the dirt that Grandma did, right? But we throw Dad under the bus in a heartbeat. Let me give you one more story. How about that other goofy joker? We all seen that goofy ass joker on the internet. Remember the dude that was bragging about, man, my wife ain't paid not one bill in 18 years. I don't make my wife pay for no bill. I pay the car note, I pay the mortgage, I pay the electric bill, I pay the gas bill, I pay all the groceries. My wife don't gotta pay for nothing. He was bragging and bragging and bragging. It was almost as if he was trying to put down every other average man, right? Well, let me tell you something about that goofy. She left his ass. So now what you think that goofy is? Because one thing I can tell you based on that statement I told you so many times before, what don't make you can break you. I bet you that broke him. It definitely ain't gonna make him a man because he never was a man. He was a lame sucker ass, could never get with the game. And on that note, subscribe, share, like, and comment. Peace. Pimp's Rap. The master.